Child of the path, listen deeply. A man who speaks much is not necessarily wise, just as a bird with many feathers is not always able to soar high into the sky. Words, like arrows once released, cannot be called back. They can heal or they can wound. They can build peace or they can ignite fires of division. Thus, the wise do not measure speech by its abundance, but by its purpose, by its truth, and by the stillness from which it arises. The Buddha once said, "Better than 1,000 meaningless words is a single word of truth, which brings peace to the heart." Consider this carefully. The noise of the world is vast, and most men are drowned in it. They chatter to fill silence, gossip to escape their own emptiness, and argue to protect illusions that cannot stand before wisdom. The more one speaks without awareness, the more chains he forges for himself. Yet silence is not emptiness. Silence is the cradle of clarity. Within silence, you discover your true voice. The less you speak, the less entangled you become in gossip, in misunderstanding, in needless dispute. Speech is a fire, too small, and it does not warm, uncontrolled, and it consumes everything in its path. To speak rightly is to master the fire, to give warmth, light, and guidance, never destruction. Pause, child of the path. Ask yourself, why do I speak? Is it to display knowledge, to win favor, to dominate others, to scatter words like seeds without care? Or is it to uplift, to comfort, to reveal truth, to bring harmony where there is discord? The first path binds you to suffering. The second frees you and those around you. Imagine a pond, clear and still. The moment a stone is thrown, ripples spread endlessly across the surface. So too with words. A single careless phrase may ripple through families, through communities, through generations. The wise see this truth and therefore guard their tongue with vigilance, just as a gatekeeper watches the entrance of a great city. Not everything is allowed in. Not every thought deserves to take form as sound. But restraint is not suppression. To silence yourself out of fear is not wisdom, it is bondage. True wisdom is knowing when to speak and when to remain silent, when to release words and when to let them dissolve back into the heart. This is the discipline of right speech, one of the noble eightfold path, guiding the seeker away from lies, harsh words, idle chatter, and divisive talk. Child of the path, recognize this truth. Words shape destiny. They shape the world within and the world without. If your words are bitter, your mind will be bitter. If your words are compassionate, your heart will bloom. If your words are false, your life will fracture. If your words are aligned with truth, your life will flow in harmony with the Dhamma, like a river moving effortless to the sea. When you learn to govern speech, you also learn to govern thought, for words are born first in the secret chambers of the mind. A mind untamed produces reckless speech. A mind disciplined produces words of wisdom. Therefore the practice begins, not with the lips, but with awareness. Guard the seed before it becomes the tree. Watch the spark before it becomes the flame. The wise purify thought, and thus their speech flows like nectar, sweet, healing, uniting. Do not believe that silence makes you weak. In truth, silence is a power greater than many armies. A man who is silent but present commands more respect than one who shouts with empty arguments. In the stillness of silence, truth is revealed, as the stars emerge only when the night is quiet and dark. And yet silence is not withdrawal. The Buddha did not teach us to run from the world, but to live within it with clarity. There is a time to speak, to comfort a grieving heart, to prevent injustice, to share wisdom that uplifts. Such speech arises not from ego, but from compassion. It is the roar of the lion, the call of truth that liberates. Therefore, the less you speak out of vanity, the more powerful your words become when they are truly needed. Just as gold is rare and precious, let your words be rare and precious. Then when you do speak, your words will be remembered, cherished, and followed. Consider, child of the path, how much suffering in this world is born from careless speech. Families broken by gossip, friendships shattered by harsh words, nations divided by lies. How many wars began not with weapons but with words? The tongue is small, yet its power is immense. If left unguarded, it destroys. If guided by wisdom, it heals the world. Do not think this is a teaching only for others. Look within yourself. How often have your own words betrayed you, created trouble, drawn enemies, or spread seeds of regret? Each time you spoke without mindfulness, you built chains around your own heart. Each time you spoke with kindness, you built bridges. Speech is karma unfolding before your very eyes. Therefore, the practice is simple, yet profound. Before you speak, pause and ask, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If your words fail these measures, let silence be your offering. Better silence than poison. Better stillness than vanity. Better the discipline of speech than the regret of words once spoken. When you walk this path, child of the path, your life will change. Others will begin to trust you, for your words will carry weight. They will know that when you speak, it is not idle chatter, but wisdom. You will find fewer conflicts, fewer misunderstandings, fewer regrets. Gossip will fall away from you like dust in the wind, for the gossiping tongue cannot find a resting place in a heart that does not feed it. In time, you will see that true power is not in saying much, but in saying rightly. The wise man speaks little, yet each word is like a seed of awakening. The fool speaks much, yet his words scatter like dust in the storm. Choose then which path you walk. Child of the path, let your words be like the morning sun, few but filled with light. Let them warm hearts, reveal truth, and dissolve shadows. Speak not to be heard, but to bring clarity. Speak not to impress, but to awaken. And when no words are needed, let silence be your teacher. For silence is the language of the enlightened, and in silence all wisdom is born. This is the beginning of the discipline of speech. Hold it close, for it is a jewel more precious than gold. Child of the path, now that you have seen the danger of careless words and the power of silence, let us look deeper, for speech is not born in the mouth, but in the mind. Words are the fruits, thought is the seed. If the seed is bitter, how can the fruit be sweet? To speak rightly, one must first learn to think rightly. And, to think rightly, one must first see rightly. This is the root of wisdom, right view, clear vision, the opening of the eyes of the heart. Without this, all speech, no matter how eloquent, is but noise echoing in the valley of ignorance. See clearly, child of the path. Life is fleeting, like dew on the morning grass. Each word you speak arises and passes away, yet it leaves behind traces like footprints on the sand. When your words are rooted in delusion, they bind you. When your words are rooted in clarity, they free you. The mind is the loom, the words are the cloth. If the loom is broken, the cloth will be torn. But if the loom is steady, the cloth will be fine and strong. This is why the Buddha spoke of the importance of mindfulness. A mind unguarded is like a wild horse, dragging its rider into ravines. But a mind tamed, trained, disciplined, this mind gives rise to speech that heals, to thought that uplifts, to silence that nourishes. The wise do not simply hold back words, they purify the source from which words are born. Child of the path, consider how often thoughts race within you, like restless winds. One moment anger rises, and with it harsh words form on your tongue. Another moment jealousy burns, and gossip pours out as smoke from a fire. Another moment fear grips you, and words of deception arise, hoping to shield your fragile heart. Yet these are all fleeting shadows. To give them voice is to give them power, but to let them pass in silence is to free yourself and others from unnecessary suffering. Thus, the discipline of speech begins with the discipline of thought. When anger arises, breathe and see it clearly. Do not let it master you. When envy arises, watch it without clinging. Do not let it shape your words. When fear rises, hold it gently, like a bird in your hands, until it flies away. In this way, you do not allow the poisons of the mind to spill out into the world through careless speech. But do not mistake restraint for emptiness. The path is not to suppress thought or to kill desire, but to transform them into wisdom. Like a lotus that rises from the mud, the wise transform even anger into compassion, envy into admiration, fear into courage. And from such transformation, speech flows like a cool stream, nourishing all it touches. Child of the path, look to the noble eightfold path, for there you will find guidance. Right speech is but one limb. It is connected to right view, right intention, right action. All are one, like the limbs of a body. To purify speech, you must also purify intention. Ask yourself, why do I wish to speak? If the answer is to harm, to boast, to divide, then remain silent. If the answer is to guide, to heal, to unite, then let your words flow. The Buddha said, whatever words we utter should be chosen with care, for people will hear them and be influenced by them for good or ill. Do you see, child of the path? Every word is a seed. Plant weeds and weeds will grow. Plant flowers and beauty will blossom. Choose carefully what you sow, for the harvest will be your own. There is a power in restraint that the ordinary mind cannot understand. The fool believes that power lies in speaking loudly, in arguing fiercely, in dominating with words. But true power lies in patience, in the pause before the tongue moves, in the silence that can turn wrath into peace. To conquer 1,000 men in battle is easy. To conquer your own tongue is the greatest victory. Let us look more deeply into the nature of gossip, for this is the root of much suffering. Gossip is like a sweet poison. It entertains the ear, but it sickens the heart. The tongue delights in speaking of others, but such speech is like throwing dust into the wind. It always returns to blind your own eyes. To indulge in gossip is to add noise to the world's already endless noise. To refrain from gossip is to bring stillness, to honor the dignity of others, and to protect your own peace. Child of the path, do not think that avoiding gossip means avoiding connection. In truth, avoiding gossip deepens connection, for you are no longer entangled in webs of mistrust and suspicion. Instead, you learn to listen deeply, to honor others with presence, to speak only what is necessary and kind. Thus, trust blossoms, and your words carry the fragrance of authenticity. But words, child, are not only sounds. Words are also actions. When you write, you are speaking. When you gesture, you are speaking. Even silence, when filled with intention, becomes a word in itself. Therefore, let every expression of your being align with truth. Speak not only with the tongue, but with the eyes, with the hands, with the heart. Let your entire life become a discourse of compassion and clarity. The less you speak without purpose, the more you begin to hear. And what do you hear? You hear the sound of the world as it truly is. The rustling of leaves, the laughter of children, the cry of suffering beings, the silence between breaths. All of these are teachings if you have ears to listen. The one who speaks endlessly cannot hear. The one who is silent hears everything. In time, as your speech becomes disciplined, your life becomes disciplined. A man who cannot master his tongue cannot master his actions. But a man who speaks with clarity will live with clarity. His mind will be steady, his steps deliberate, his presence luminous. People will come to him not because of what he says, but because of the peace that radiates from his being. His words will be few, but they will pierce like arrows of truth, awakening hearts wherever they land. So, child of the path, begin where you are. In your daily life, guard the door of your speech. Ask yourself before each word, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If not, let silence hold you. In this practice, small at first, great freedom will be found. For every moment you restrain the tongue, you are breaking a chain of karma, releasing yourself from cycles of regret and pain. Remember, you are not merely refraining from harm, you are creating space for beauty. Silence gives birth to vision, to clarity, to insight. When the noise of the tongue fades, the wisdom of the heart arises. Then your words, few though they may be, will shine like gems in the darkness. Let your life be such that when you speak, people pause, hearts open, and silence follows. Not because they are empty, but because they are filled with truth too vast for words. This is the way of the wise. This is the path of right speech. Child of the path, let us go deeper still. A man who learns to guard his tongue learns also to guard his life. Discipline in speech is not merely a rule of conduct. It is the training of the heart, for speech is the bridge between inner thought and outer action. If the bridge is weak, all who cross it fall into the river of confusion. If the bridge is strong, all who walk upon it arrive safely. Thus, the practice of mindful speech becomes the practice of mindful living. But discipline, child of the path, is not chains. Discipline is freedom. Just as the banks of a river give it form and direction, discipline gives your life clarity and purpose. Without banks, the river floods and destroys. Without discipline, your life scatters in every direction, wasted by impulse, consumed by regret. To guard the tongue is to guard the mind. To guard the mind is to guard the heart. To guard the heart is to guard the whole path of your life. When you restrain your speech, you are training patience, and patience is a rare jewel, more precious than gold. The impatient man bursts forth with words before wisdom has ripened. He defends, he accuses, he boasts, he interrupts, but the patient man waits, he listens, he considers. His words ripen like fruit on the branch, sweet when released. Patience is resilience, the ability to endure without breaking, to bend without shattering, to hold silence in the storm until the storm passes. Child of the path, resilience is born from silence. Imagine a tree in the forest. The storm rages, the wind howls, but the tree does not curse the wind. It bends, it sways, it endures. Its silence is its strength. So too must you be. When others attack with words, do not attack in return. When others gossip, do not add your voice. When others demand, do not rush to answer. Like the tree, be still, and in stillness you will outlast the storm. Adaptability also is born from restraint. A man who speaks little learns to listen much. And in listening he learns the nature of others, the rhythms of the world, the flow of life itself. To adapt is not to lose yourself, but to align yourself with truth. The rigid man, who insists always on speaking, breaks when the world changes. The flexible man, who listens, bends, and speaks only when needed, flows with the world and is never broken. Do you see, child of the path? To speak less is not merely to avoid trouble, but to awaken wisdom. By not speaking, you give space for seeing. By not reacting, you give space for understanding. By not insisting, you give space for truth to reveal itself. The less you impose your words on the world, the more the world reveals its hidden teachings. In this way, gratitude arises. For in silence you begin to notice the smallest blessings, the sound of wind in the trees, the laughter of a child, the kindness of a friend, the breath that sustains you moment by moment. The chatter of the tongue blinds you to these wonders, but silence opens your eyes, and from seeing comes gratitude, not forced, not demanded, but natural, flowing like water from a spring. Gratitude is itself a form of speech, though it requires no words. It is the language of the heart expressed in presence, in action, in the soft gaze of understanding. When gratitude fills you, even your silence speaks loudly, and even your few words carry warmth. Gratitude transforms the ordinary into the sacred. The foolish man complains endlessly, scattering words of discontent. The wise man, in silence, sees the miracle in a grain of rice, in a drop of water, in a single breath. Child of the path, understand this truth. Your words shape not only the world outside, but the world within. If your speech is filled with anger, your heart will burn. If your speech is filled with complaint, your mind will be restless. If your speech is filled with kindness, your spirit will be at peace. The echo of your words returns always to your own ear. Thus, by disciplining speech, you purify the heart. But let this not be a heavy burden. The path of discipline is not meant to make you hard, but to make you light. It is not a cage, but wings. When you no longer waste words on gossip, on quarrels, on vanity, you free your energy for creativity, for service, for joy. Your silence becomes fertile ground from which wisdom blossoms. Think of the lotus, child of the path. It does not shout as it grows. It rises silently from the mud, unfolding its petals without noise. Yet its fragrance spreads far, its beauty touches all who see it. So too should your words be, few, quiet, but fragrant with truth. The lotus teaches without speaking, just as silence teaches without sound. Therefore, let your discipline in speech be guided by compassion. Do not restrain words simply to avoid trouble for yourself, but to avoid bringing suffering to others. A harsh word may linger in another's heart for years, even when forgotten by your own tongue. A kind word spoken at the right moment may heal wounds deeper than the flesh. Thus, each word is a medicine or a poison. Choose always to heal. The Buddha said, if you propose to speak, always ask yourself, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? This, child of the path, is the golden gate. Pass through it with every word, and you will not go astray. Know also that silence is not absence. It is presence at its deepest. The one who is silent but fully awake radiates more than the one who fills the air with endless chatter. When your silence is rooted in awareness, it speaks louder than words. It calms others. It invites trust. It reveals wisdom without effort. Thus, cultivate the silence that nourishes, not the silence that hides. There is a silence of fear. When one withholds truth to escape responsibility, that silence is bondage. There is a silence of wisdom when one holds back words until they are ripened with clarity. That silence is liberation. Learn to know the difference. Child of the path, walk this training step by step. Restrain the tongue today, and tomorrow your mind will be calmer. Restrain the tongue tomorrow, and the day after your heart will be lighter. In time, restraint becomes natural, like the breath, like the beating of the heart. Then your words will be like jewels, rare, bright, and full of value. The path is not easy. The tongue will often rebel, eager to speak, to defend, to boast. At times you will fail, and words will escape like arrows, wounding yourself and others. Do not despair. Each failure is a teacher. Each regret is a lesson. Return to silence, return to awareness, return to the discipline of compassion. Over time, your words will soften, your speech will purify, your presence will illuminate. Child of the path, know this truth. When you master your words, you master yourself. And when you master yourself, you become unshakable, like the mountain unmoved by the wind. Your silence will teach more than your speech. Your presence will heal more than your arguments. Your words will guide more than your commands. This is the fruit of discipline, the fragrance of gratitude, the strength of resilience, the gift of silence. Child of the path, you have now seen how silence guards the heart, how words can heal or wound, how restraint gives birth to patience, resilience, and clarity. Yet let us go further still, for the teaching of the Buddha is not merely to avoid harm, but to walk toward awakening. When the tongue is stilled, the heart becomes still. When the heart is still, wisdom rises like the sun after a long night. In that wisdom, you see clearly that all beings suffer from the same restlessness, the same hunger for recognition, the same fear of silence. Out of this fear, they chatter endlessly, clinging to words as if words could save them. But you, child of the path, you have begun to see. You have learned that silence is not emptiness, but fullness, the fullness of awareness, of presence, of truth beyond sound. The Buddha's path is not a rejection of life, but a deep embrace of it. To guard your words is not to withdraw from the world, but to serve it with clarity. When you speak less, you begin to hear more, and in listening, you discover the cries of the world. You hear the sorrow hidden behind laughter, the longing behind anger, the fear behind pride. And with this listening comes compassion. True compassion does not always require words. Sometimes a quiet presence, a gaze of understanding, a hand placed gently upon another's shoulder, carries more meaning than 1,000 sentences. When you cultivate silence, you learn the language of the heart, and this language is universal. No barrier of culture or tongue can obscure it. Silence becomes the bridge between souls. Child of the path, understand also that silence alone is not the goal. Silence is the soil. From it must grow the flower of right speech. To refrain from harm is good, but to actively sow goodness is greater. Let your words be like offerings placed upon the altar of life. Let them inspire courage, awaken hope, bring comfort to the weary, light to the lost. Even a single phrase, spoken with compassion at the right moment, may alter the course of another's destiny. Therefore, speak not often, but speak with truth. Speak not to be admired, but to guide. Speak not to impress, but to awaken. Let your words be the echo of silence, not its opposite. Let them arise from clarity, not confusion, from love, not fear. In this way, your speech will align with the Dhamma, and your life will be a teaching even without a single word spoken. Child of the path, remember this. The less you speak, the more your words matter. The less you scatter your voice, the more power it holds when it is needed. The world is filled with noise, but what the world truly longs for is not more sound. It longs for truth, for peace, for compassion. Let your silence prepare you to give these gifts. You need not raise your voice to be heard. You need not argue to be strong. You need not gossip to belong. Your strength is in your stillness. Your power is in your restraint. Your belonging is in the truth of your heart. Stand therefore like the mountain, silent, unmoving, yet shaping the winds and rivers. Be like the lotus rising silently, yet spreading fragrance across the waters. Be like the sun, saying nothing, yet giving warmth to all beings without discrimination. In your silence, you will discover your true voice. In your restraint, you will discover your true freedom. In your words, when they are few and filled with compassion, you will discover your true purpose. Child of the path, walk gently, speak with care. Let your silence be radiant, and let your words be like jewels. In this way, you will no longer be a prisoner of speech, but a master of wisdom. And when your life itself becomes the teaching, when your presence is peace and your silence is truth, then you will know you are walking in the footsteps of the awakened one.